and rural communities. I oversee the rural programs and the CDBG grant program. So Sean is my right-hand person for sure. He does an excellent job with the rural communities. But just as a reminder up front, I would like to have everybody put your cell phones on silence. If you need to take a call, please step out of the room. Be very respectful of those around you. And then also any sidebar conversations, please have them either afterwards or outside. And I hate to ask that, but unfortunately, we have many meetings that get disrupted quite often. Anybody that's on the phone with us, we're going to ask you to put it on *6. We're actually going to put the phone on *5, which will put you in conference mode. A lot of times people will take a phone call or they'll have a meeting on the sidebar whenever they're on the phone, and they'll put us on, not hold. Yeah, they put us on hold, and so then we end up hearing music. And so it blocks out everybody else hearing anything. So again, thank you so much for hosting us over here today. We're very excited about being over here. I actually came through on Tuesday. I had a meeting in Flagler, so I've been on 100 a couple of times this week. And right now I would like to introduce Representative, I don't think he needs any introduction. Representative Bobby Payne wants to come up and talk to y'all, so thank you.
Thank you. Great, well, good morning. Thank you all for being here. We're excited today to have an opportunity to have our DEO and our REDI committee members here today, and those of you on the phone, thank you for dialing in. It's a great day over in Putnam County, and but we want to recognize the fact that they're here, thank them for being here, and certainly want to take a little bit of time to thank all the elected officials, administrative folks, and staff folks from throughout District 19 for being here. And I think Sean will go through the goals of what we're trying to accomplish here today. There'll be quite a long agenda, but I think it's important to understand that this is kind of a first stop for us. So we're excited, and our office is always willing and ready and able to try to coordinate and help facilitate what we can do to improve the lives and the quality of lives of citizens in our community, in our districts. Let me do a quick introduction of my staff in case you've not met them. Are they present? There's Leota. I see Leota Wilkinson. Leota is our local district aide for Putnam and Clay. Tammy Steele is Bradford and Union, Tammy, and Sam Wagner is our legislative aide in the back. So certainly make sure you contact them, get their information as well as my information before you leave today if you don't have that. So certainly very excited to have everyone here today. Thank you for being here. And the last item is we do have some light refreshments outside. This is a meeting that will run kind of through lunch, so if you feel like you need to grab some water or grab maybe some fruit or something, feel free to do that. So thank you all for being here today, and we're excited today. Let's have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, so as y'all could see, we've got a very full agenda today, so we'll try and we're running it through lunch, so I know everybody's going to be ready for lunch here pretty quick. Yeah, I just had a brainwave leave me. The REDI, the Rural Economic Development Initiative, was put in place to assist with rural communities, helping address concerns and issues in the area. And one, right here, can y'all hear me now? Anyway, one of the nice things that we have seen come out of the meetings when we move it around is that we can get our representatives from USDA and DOT and DJJ and Department of Corrections. They can come and they can see everything for themselves in their communities. And then we can go back and we can brainstorm on issues that we see or we talk about. We don't always have an answer, and we may not have an answer for you today. We might not have one tomorrow, but we may have one a month from now or a year from now, but you're always on top of our minds. I've actually had people that have called my office and asked me about a grant or if they could get funding for something, and I didn't necessarily have it right then and there, but I've called people back a year and a half later or a year later, and I know people think that they drop off our radars. They don't. Sean, we'll just go ahead and get the meeting started. The first person that we have up, we have somebody from Palatka, Zara Folston.
First, we need to do roll.
Oh, okay, sorry. Sean needs to do roll first. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go through the agency roster so we can get right into this. Agency for Healthcare,
Hey, Sean. Good morning. It's Nicole.
Good morning, good morning. Department of Agriculture.
Hi, Sean. It's Grace Levitt.
Great, good morning. Children and Family Services. Department of Corrections. Department of Education. DEP.
Hi, Sean. It's Lindsay. Lindsay
Hi.
Weaver.
Hi, Lindsay, good morning. Department of Health.
Hi, Sean. It's Randy Calvert.
Good morning, Randy. DJJ is here. Department of State.
Morning, Sean. It's Angie Tomlinson.
Good morning, Angie. DOT is here. Enterprise Florida.
Good morning. It's Trent Shaw.
Good morning. Fish and Wildlife. The RPCs.
North Central Florida Regional Planning Council, this is Steve Dopp.
Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Sean. This is Richard Suchik with ARPC.
Good morning, gentlemen. IFAS. Northwest Florida Water Management.
Hey, Sean, this is Mike McDaniel. How are you?
Good morning, good morning. South Florida Water Management. Southwest Florida Water Management. St. John's Water Management. Here. All right. Swanee.
Katie Kelly for Swanee River Water Management District.
Good morning. Visit Florida.
Hey, good morning, Sean. It's Joanna.
Good morning. Career Source Florida. Opportunity Florida.
Hey, Sean. This is Richard.
Good morning. Florida's Heartland. NFEDP is here.
I'm here as well.
Good morning, Diane.
Good morning.
Rural Water Association. Florida Association of Counties. Florida League of Cities. USDA is here. EDA. Rural Health Association. And the Small County Coalition.
Yes, sir. I'm here. Chris Doolin.
Good morning, Chris. And that's the roll. Thank you very much.
All right, well, again, a reminder, we have all the materials at the front of the room, and also, if you haven't seen the sign-in sheet, please make sure that you sign in. And I jumped the gun. We've got Commissioner Buddy Goddard. If he's here, we'll let him go ahead and take the floor.
Presentation mode is now enabled.
Okay, that's fine, wherever you want.
To the folks who are on the phone, I've muted you to make sure that we don't have any hold issues. After each presenter, I'll free up the phone so that you can ask questions and make comment.
If we want to go around the room, there's an awful lot of people.
We have such a tight time, I don't want to do that.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. It's nice to be just a little bit forward instead of right there at that podium. I'm going to have to read this. On behalf of the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners and the citizens of Putnam County, I am pleased to welcome the members of the Rural Economic Development Initiative to our community. Putnam County is no stranger to the REDI agencies. Representatives of our community have worked closely with state agencies for many years in our effort to maintain the quality of life and improve our economic base. Notwithstanding our continuing effort, we face many challenges. Let me share with you a number of facts. Putnam County is a small county with a population of 73,176 as of the past November. Our fiscal capacity is well below the statewide per capita in both ad valorem values and the value of what the local option sales tax generates. The value of 1 mil of property tax generates $3,391,746. Per capita, the 1 mil generates approximately 47.72 per county residence, 56% of the statewide average of 84. The value of 1%, a 1 cent sales tax generates $7,216,718. Per capita, 1 cent local sales tax generates $98 0.62 per resident. The statewide per capita value of 1 cent is 191.13. Designated as a fiscally constrained county and a rural area of critical concern, our community faces a number of challenges, and we are appreciative of the relationship that we have with our state agencies, our state leadership, including State Representative Bobby Payne and Senator Keith Perry. We participate in our state organizations, the Florida Association of Counties and the Small County Coalition, and we are pleased that one of our commissioners, Larry Harvey, has recently been appointed to serve as the chair of the Rural Caucus of the Florida Association of Counties, which we are very proud of. We will continue to be an advocate for rural economic development, and we appreciate the time that have been committed to our community today. And these are our three basics. Number one is our barge port improvements, and I'm just going to briefly hit this. The barge port development project is multidimensional. With the raising of the Shands Bridge, we can now utilize that port as it should be, and we can generate a very good income from there. Our approximate amount for our improvements is $15 million. And the potential funding source is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, basically for the dredging. Our other main one is our potable water and wastewater expansion on East Putnam County State Road 20, State Road 207, which is our corridor over to St. Johns County. We've already got somewhat in place, but to continue it is going to be very costly. The water is $4 million for the sewer. Water is $2 million for the water. Well, these are the three things. I got three maps here, and I won't think I'll be able to show it. But all in all, we're looking at $27,825,000 to do this. But it's in order for that corridor to be expanded, as we know it's going to happen. This is a major item that we got to be on. Okay, and the other is, well, I say the other, it's on page 3, is our fiber optics. Everybody knows we all have to improve our infrastructure, and that's one of our main things, the expansion of the fiber infrastructure to provide high-speed internet access to various portions of the county. Again, that amount is $6,650,000. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Muted.
Okay, do we have any questions from the folks on the phone about the presentation? Okay.
Okay, next up, Kenny Downs, County Chief Deputy Clerk of Court.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for hearing us today, and welcome to Putnam County. I'm here representing not the Clerk of Court's office today, but I'm representing several thousand people that live in our community. We're talking about restrooms. We're talking about restrooms at our Francis Ballpark. I'm going to give you a very quick update on where we're at. 20-something years ago, the county and private citizens went together to build this ballpark because we needed it. What do we have there? We have playgrounds, we have bike paths, we have dog trails, and we've got 6 baseball fields and softball fields. What we have today is 2 restrooms, and we had 2 tournaments in the last 6 weeks. At the 2 tournaments we had over 40 teams to come to our community from as far as Central Florida and all over North Florida. Several thousand people were here for 4 days. We had the restaurants, the hotels. Many people were given discounts for the people to come and stay. So it certainly helps us economically in our community to look at this. Personally, I've been to many tournaments over the years as I have grandchildren that play ball and those type things. And I will tell you that, as bad as I hate to admit it, but we're the only county that has portlets at the ball field. Now, if you've ever been to a ball field in June and July and it's about 100 degrees, the last thing you want to do is go to a portlet. The very last thing you want to do. This field was put together, as we said earlier, by private enterprise individuals working together. They would get scrap plywood to work on it. The septic tank system and the restrooms that were put in were donated that by a local plumber in our community. Recently, at the first softball tournament we had, 40 teams were there. The ladies' restroom quit working. It had 2 stalls. There were 25 little girls lined up to go to the men's restroom. That's not acceptable. That's really not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. What we're asking for today in the 2 restrooms, and this was suitable when they put that in 20-something years ago, the crowd was not there as it is today. The restrooms that are there today are with 2 fields, and then we go down about 400 or 500 feet down the way, and you've got a T-ball field. I'm sure some of you have had little children playing T-ball, little girls and boys. And then we have an 8-year-old field, a 9 and 10-year-old field, and 11 and 12-year-old field. This is where the bulk of the people go. We need to put some restrooms in that are certainly acceptable to use. The restrooms that we're asking for would be 4 urinals in the men's restroom in 1 stall, handicap stall, and be 5 stalls in the ladies' restroom, and of course we'd have 5 lavatories in both. I'm sure we're going to have a mound septic tank system, and so we come to you today and ask for your support in this. We have continued to work at, when you go out and you see the mothers and the fathers and the grandparents out working 10 days, 2 weeks ahead of time to get the field ready. So we've got something we can be really proud of when people come in from counties all around us and they come in to see what we've got. And we're extremely proud of what we got, but we really need some more restrooms. We're predicting the cost on that's going to be about $50,000. So it's not a bad price when you start pricing mound-type septic systems. You know, I know I'm the second one on the list, but I would recommend that the first thing that organizations look at is to show that you're doing something. Let's get the low-hanging fruit first. I'll be glad to ask you any questions.
Questions or comments?
Unmuted.
Do we have any questions for the presenter, from the folks on the phone? Can you still hear us on the phone?
Thank you so much.
Aha, okay.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna reboot the phone.
Hey, Sean,
Hey,
this is Chris Doolin. I just wanted to say I didn't have any questions, but when you put us on mute, whatever you guys did, it muted everybody, so no one online, at least I couldn't hear any of the presentations. So anyway,
no.
that's all, just FYI.
Okay, we're gonna leave that off then. We're gonna leave that function off. Thank you, Chris.
All right, next up, now we have, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Zara Folston, City Manager with Palatka.
Before you begin, let me just check again.
Okay.
Can you hear us now, everyone?
Yeah.
I'm only getting one response. Chris, I think we're gonna reboot it to make sure that we get everybody back in. All right?
I did have to come back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Welcome to Suncom Reservationless Conferencing. Please enter your passcode followed by the pound sign. After the tone, please state your name followed by the pound sign.
Sean Lewis, DEO. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? It's going to take him a second.
I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. We apologize. We had a technical issue here, and the phone just muted everybody, and we lost folks. So folks should be coming back in. Yep, I'm hearing them chiming back in. Okay.
All right, do you want to wait a couple seconds, or you want us to go?
No, go ahead and start.
All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Yeah. We got a long little meeting, so I think just that energy just needs to be there because it gets us a little chilly, all right? So good morning. So many familiar faces I see out there. Definitely want to thank Sean and his staff for coming, and Representative Payne for having this. Appreciate you guys so very much. I met with Representative Payne, and everything that he told me he would do for us, he has done it. So I'm appreciative of him and his staff. And thank you again, Sean, for bringing this to Putnam County. We are very appreciative. I'm Zariah Folston, the city manager of the city of Palatka, and we have a couple of things that we want to talk about this morning. Some of which, do you have my props? I do. Okay. All right. One of which is water, and water quality specifically. Here in the beautiful city of Palatka, we have an issue with water quality as we have some aging pipes, if you will, from the 1800s that we need to start replacing. Right now, so far, we've been using CRA dollars to be able to replace some of those lines. But as we begin to move the project outside of the CRA areas, we need to elicit the support of many of you in this room to help us with funding and being able to address that powerful and important issue to us. Water quality should be something all of us desire. You know, clean drinking water should be something. Even in my office, at first I didn't notice the yellow or the red film that would be around the toilet because our cleaner would just be there. But when she was absent, I noticed, wow, okay. And so I can't even imagine what some people may be experiencing, even in the filters in their ice machines and in their homes. And so it's one of the areas that we really need your support on. Another thing that we need your support on is our wastewater treatment facilities upgrades. We need several upgrades to our wastewater treatment facility. It has aged and it's past its life, and we need your assistance to be able to do upgrades in that particular facility as well. So any knowledge, any expertise, any people that we may need to get in contact with to address that area, we would greatly appreciate that. Additional thing is stormwater and flooding. A few weeks ago, or I should say this, I'm new to Putnam County, and so one evening leaving work, I was going down, I believe it's 9th Street, and coming down up under the bridge where the train goes across, and it was kind of dusk, and I didn't realize that what was on the road was water. And I got almost halfway with my car, and I said, no, that's probably not a good idea to back up. But people that are from Putnam County know when it's raining really hard, don't even drive on that street. As well as we have pictures of cars that were right there in front of the Beck dealership that were flooded. So we also have an issue not just with wastewater, but we have an issue with stormwater and doing stormwater mapping. So dollars that we need to be able to do a stormwater mapping, to be able to find out those areas that we need to address, we need support in that area as well. And then lastly is this. We believe in a vibrant downtown and community here in the city of Palatka. We want to do something to increase the vibrancy, if you will, of our downtown corridor. One of the things we would like to do is to be able to have a splash park or a recreational area where families can come and participate with their kids, sit along the riverfront and eat, and enjoy the climate and enjoy the good weather here in the gem city that is Palatka. So anything that we can do in terms of partnering with anybody to solicit funds to help us bring those type of recreational community areas to the riverfront, we would greatly appreciate it. This vial or this bottle is the water as it comes out of our plant. And this is not many miles away from our plant, depending on where you're at within our city. And this is a result of turbidity and other things, as well as the aging pipes. Mandy Tucker is here. She's our grants administrator, if you will, or manager, if you will. She's going to provide a little bit more information as it pertains to these items. But I wanted to let you know that I'm excited that you guys are here in the beautiful city of Palaca. Thank you so much. And hopefully all of us can get something through the partnerships I believe that we can gain today. Mandy?
Thank you. Yes, the visual aids. This is actually what happens when there's a disruption in service. So when a water main breaks and the water sits, it collects the iron deposits and other deposits inside the pipes and turns this lovely color of yellow or rust. Another thing that happens is it affects our water pressure, which is a very big safety hazard when it comes to fires. We recently finished phase 1 of potable line replacements, mostly thanks to the St. Johns River Water Management District that gave us a $500,000 cost share agreement for that. We put about another $400,000 with that, and we're able to do most of the north side where the aged pipes were. We came across the central, and within phase 2 and 3, we're going to be moving into the south. But right now, I had results from tests that were done, and on the fire hydrants that were in the north where the pipes were replaced, we had one hydrant where the water pressure went from 630 to 1300, or almost a little over twice. In the other ones, other 3, it went from in the low 300s to the 1500s, so a times 5. And then we had one that went from 440 to 1500, so about a 3.5. But that's wonderful when you think of the protection to the public in those areas. So I did want to mention that. We currently are about to start phase 2 and 3 of our potable line replacement. We are also seeking funding for phases 5 and 6. Right now, we have about $4 million worth of shovel-ready projects that we're trying to get the funding for. And that's with potable. The wastewater treatment facility upgrades is mainly the biosolids treatment and the dewatering system, and then we need a second clarifier in order to keep up with the demand as the city grows and the demand for the, well, obviously the wastewater treatment. That's one thing we don't want to be behind demand on at all. And stormwater and flooding. Currently, we're seeking funding for all of the projects, and they range from $1.2 million to $1.7 million, and then we have a smaller one of $400,000. And that's about it. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you remind us where the city of Palaca is as far as zero discharge back to the river? Is that are we still a zero discharge facility with the exception of storms?
With the exception of stormwater, I believe so, but that's a question. Oh, I'm sorry. With the exception of some of the stormwater areas that we're working on, I believe that's true, but that would really be more of a question for Mr. Griffith, the Public Works Director, and I can get an answer for you on that from him on Monday.
Well, I'm sure you are. I just wanted you to remind the folks of that. So
Thank you.
the importance of the other components you're asking for to maintain that.
Yes. You're welcome. Anyone else?
Any questions from folks on the phone? Are you still with us? Hello?
I am.
Okay.
Okay.
Got me worried there, guys. Okay.
Don't ask that question anymore, okay?
Okay, well, thank you very much, and we appreciate all the information on the projects that y'all have in the pipe here. Next up, we have a presentation for Crescent City, Mr. Patrick Kennedy, and he is the city manager with Crescent City.
Good morning, everyone. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir facing this way. Very similar stories in Crescent City, obviously, maybe on a smaller scale. But, you know, we have some infrastructure needs, and cutting right to the chase. And we recently established a North CRA district and South CRA district in Crescent City, and the primary purpose indicated, in fact, almost the exclusive purpose for the CRAs is as a potential funding source for infrastructure we need in both those areas. Crescent City has some very viable and pretty vacant land on its Crescent Lake, which is one of our major assets, but there's no water and sewer, and this is, you know, in our little 2.5 square miles city. So we think that just getting some water and sewer to go by those properties will go a long ways towards making those more viable for redevelopment. And we estimate between $2 to $3 million to do the entire thing. We do recognize that the price of free money is paperwork and time. So if we have to do those things in stages, that's the way we have to do it. We do work with a lot of the REDI programs now, and they've been very beneficial as Water Management District, the Department of Transportation, and others have all been very helpful to us. We also are very interested in broadband. I think it makes sense for the county to be the leader on that, but Crescent City, and most of you know, Crescent City has a fear of being forgotten. And so we want to make sure we're in the loop, but we also, the county vision, I hope, will include making it available for in a way that makes access for the commercial and residential users, and not just public facilities. I know sometimes that's how we get the facilities there, but we need to come up with a plan that we know the private sector is going to be able to take advantage of. And we've been in communication with the county, but also kind of doing our own thing. We got some rough estimates for the worst case scenario, if you will, to build a Crescent City building its own line from the north and south all the way in of up to $6 million. But we know we can do better than that, especially if we're able to cooperate with the county and come up with a solution that works for everybody. We have some aging water infrastructure. It's probably not quite as old as some of Palaca's. We don't have any wooden lines, I'll say that. But we do have some that have the old galvanized service lines and lead joints, and so we'd like to see those replaced. I would like to see if there's a program, too, that would help some of the property owners to change their plumbing, if that's possible. If there's any way to include that in some of the projects, because in some cases it is the property owner's antiquated plumbing that is the problem with those deposits that you see. They have galvanized lines. They can't afford to fix them. And, we can show them the water's coming out clear right at the tap, but it's coming out rusty at theirs. So we need to maybe find a way to help some folks who tie into these line improvements to improve the plumbing within their residences if they can't afford to do it themselves. And another thing, we want to resurface and redesign Central Avenue. It's our historic commercial corridor. Crescent City was born via river traffic, steamboat traffic, and so Central Avenue was the original commercial corridor. It has seen better days, and we would like to revitalize it from a historic perspective, but also from a commercial viability. We're making small headroads in that. We just, again, revise our CRA plan to come up with a more specific direction, much of which involves resurfacing, drainage improvements, water and sewer. And what I would like to propose is we come up with a way. Right now we have an application in with DOT for a SCOP grant for the paving. If we're able to get that, it would be awesome if we could piggyback a water management district project for stormwater and so forth. So a way that the REDI agencies can kind of help us coordinate the programs they have and get on the same page with us to leverage all those assets would be great. I've mentioned that in my applications to the DOT, saying, look, if you do this, we might be able to get water management district, but there's a lot of maybes in there, and I'd like to be able to say, because of the way REDI works, water management district is going to be in a position to step up if DOT steps up, if we can all get together, some way to make the agencies work together. I know they see the benefit, but they all have their own kind of criteria for reviewing, and it doesn't involve, well, do they have other agencies who can and help make it happen. Usually the match issues are looked at from a local perspective, what we bring to the table. And we are willing to bring some money to the table. We don't have all the money necessary. So that's one project that's had me thinking if there's a way for the agencies to get together for REDI groups and show how they can bring all their resources together to get a bigger chunk of the work done. And finally, something I'd like to mention, we have an historic structure, one particular one that is connected to A. Philip Randolph. It's an old AME church that has fallen into major disrepair. And one of the problems we're having is the historic grants that are available, they usually want you to come ready with a plan. And we can't even hardly afford to come up with the plan because it's a private structure, and a lot of the stuff, it's because it's a church, the grant can't get to all the issues that may need to be addressed. But, we could use some help just with getting a contractor, architects, and engineers to help us come up with the solutions so we know what to present as far as the construction and the construction costs go. So, and I say this with most of the programs. They're great construction grants out there and sources of money, but planning grants, although DEO has helped us with the planning grants, some of the stuff I just talked about, a DEO grant helped us achieve with our CRA revitalization or amending the plan. But I'm talking more like the design element of some of the projects, the engineering and architectural design that has to be done. A lot of the grants require that up front. This shovel ready was used. Sometimes getting shovel ready is cost prohibitive for local governments in a ready district. So that's something CDBG did it, not CDBG, Fish and Wildlife I think did it briefly for the BIP program, and then they did away with it. They went back to construction grants, but they did have a design grant for a little while there. So that's one thing I'd like just in a broad term of things for the REDI agencies to consider is trying to find some design and more planning money as well as building money. Okay? All right.
Thank you. Any questions from the phone?
One thing that I'll do whenever we go back to the office is we're going to probably put together a spreadsheet of all the projects. I'll have Sean put that together and we'll look at the funding sources that can go along with it. And a little bit later, I'm going to talk just a tad about CDBG. Just because of my experience working with communities, I'm listening to what you're saying. We've had many communities that have to piecemeal projects together because we have a cap on programs, or there are certain, a lot of our programs are competitive. There's the scoring application process, and I can't do so much. We can't do a lot about that with all the agencies across the board, but we can sit down together as a REDI agency and talk about the programs. But again, I am making changes to the CDBG program that I think communities will benefit from greatly. I have a long way to go, and I'm very excited about my changes, but I can't really share too much with them. So, but anyway, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute because there's something I want people to be well aware of on that. Next up, we have a presentation from the City of Lake Butler, the city manager, Dale Walker. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Dale Walker. I'm the city manager of Lake Butler. Lake Butler, one of the smallest communities in the state, one of the poorest counties in the state. And we're trying to bring Lake Butler to a new level. And we've got 3 priorities that we're really focusing on. The first is wastewater. We have a tremendous problem with infiltration, and we're trying to solve that. When it rains, like a lot of other places, we get a lot of flooding to the point where sometimes it floods into the basements, into the homes of the residents. And so there's a lot of issues with the wastewater. Plus, it's very old. It's antiquated. It's running up against capacity limits. And we've heard that from a lot of the other speakers already. And so now we're then focused on the water system. We have some interesting issues with potential contamination and the flowing into or getting near our drinking water. So we need to be looking at that. And the third real big issue for us is economic drivers. Excuse me, in Lake Butler, we don't have a sit-down restaurant. We don't have a hotel. Some of the other communities have other issues. We're back at the basics. And so we're looking for some dynamic person that wants to come in and build a hotel. We want somebody to come in and build a restaurant, and then we can go from there. We also would be interested in the CDBG funding for residential property, and we talked about trying to get the homes back up to standards, because some of the residents can't afford to do the things that we've talked about. So there's a lot of issues. Lake Butler is on the rise. We're positive. We know that it'll come. And, but we need some of the very basic issues, not trying to create other things that other communities have. We're just trying to go back to the beginning. Step one, how do we do it? How do we accomplish it? So that's where we're at, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. I'm short and sweet, but we'll get it done. Thanks.
Any questions for the city of Lake Butler? Any in the audience?
I do want to make a comment.
Hold-
Yes, sir.
Okay, next up, we have a little change to our agenda here. We're going to add in Union County, Tim Allen.
Hi, my name is Timothy Allen. I'm the newly appointed Emergency Management Director and 911 Coordinator for Union County. And I've only been on the job for about 2 weeks, so I don't have any formal presentation, but I would like to talk about our biggest priority in Union County. First of all, I'd like to say we support the City of Lake Butler's projects fully, 100%. And those are very needed projects. But from a county perspective, our biggest priority right now is a new Emergency Operations Center. I'd like to read just a little bit from the most recent shelter survey. The first point is a little humorous. The building is exposed to one very large, heavy tree that could cause destructive collapse or lay down impact damage. This tree would not only breach the building, but would eliminate EOC communications and servers and 911 communications for the sheriff's office. The tree is protected by County Ordinance 12-01 and cannot be removed. We also have significant sources of small, large, very large, heavy laydown rollover and or falling debris sources within 300 feet of shelter building's perimeter. Inadequately secured propane tank directly outside the building could present a hazard in high winds. There's no building code, wind speed design, or importance factor or structural with wind load calculations present at all in the plans. It was built in the 90s, and that engineer's license expired in 2003. There's no evidence of clips as specified in the plans. There's evidence of nails and not screws used to attach plywood roof subdeck. Some nails not engaging sheathing to trusses. Also, the building roof condition has been reported as sunken and rotten. The biggest concern I have, though, is that retrofit projects are not possible because of the size of the EOC. The EOC, including offices, is about 1,000 square feet, not counting the dispatch room. And the EOC itself is 387 square feet. I've gotten preliminary estimates from an architect, and it would cost just under $3 million for a new EOC in Union County, mainly because of the hardening that is required for those buildings, especially if you include 24/7 dispatch and communication center inside. Obviously, Union County being fiscally constrained, designated by the state of Florida, that is not possible. In 2006, under House Bill 2171, or I think was the number, we applied for EOC grant funding. And even though we were told we had one of the best applications in the state, we were denied because they were awarded to coastal communities, which is understandable. But we were also told there would be another round of grant funding, and there never was. It's now 2018. We wrote an executive summary to the legislature in 2009 explaining why we basically did not have an EOC, and all these reasons were included, and it was pretty much ignored. So any guidance on possible funding would be greatly appreciated, and I'm able to answer any questions. I also have business cards if you'd like to get one later, and please get in contact with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Union County? New EOC.
Okay, next up, we'll have a presentation by the City of Lottie, the Honorable Jimmy Scott. is the mayor.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Jimmy Scott, Mayor of the City of Lodi, located on the north end of Bradford County, population 780 and counting. We're a small city, which means we have a small tax base and not able to really complete projects that are essential to our growth. So what we're seeking is some assistance for our city hall, for our red light camera switch, excuse me, not camera, but a red light switch to allow vehicles, our emergency vehicles, to enter the busy Highway US 301 quickly so we can respond, reduce our response time, and basically save lives. Our first project is a City of Lodi municipal facility. We are currently in a building donated by the Department of Corrections. It was an old barracks for the inmates out in Rayford, and it is sagging, roofs leaking, walls cracking, and it is time for a new facility. So we are estimating about 3,500 square foot of space at an estimated cost of $350,000. Our second project is replacement of non-working fire hydrant. We have some all over the city that's not working, and those we need in case of an emergency or need a fire, we need to be able to have those fire hydrants working. So we're estimating about 11 of those fire hydrants that need replacement at a cost of about $93,500. Our last project is the emergency red light switch that we can install in our emergency vehicles, police department, fire, when they enter that busy Highway US 310. By the way, the estimated traffic pattern is 17,000 cars per day. It is very difficult to enter that highway either heading north or south or across to the east with traffic pattern or the traffic that we have coming through Lodi. So we are seeking a switch that will allow our emergency vehicles to enter the red light, change that red light so they can access the highway very, very quickly. In the past few years, we've implemented a sewer system from USDA loan grant program that's completed, and that is all a part of the plan to grow, move forward. This year, we've completed a CDBG grant to upgrade our water system that will also provide us with the opportunity to grow, and we're seeing that. As a matter of fact, this week we're hooking up 3 new people into the city, whereas before we could not. So all this is getting Lodi in the position that they can grow and eventually take care of all of its infrastructure. So we are seeking for a total of about $518,500 for these 3 projects, and any assistance we can get from any funding source, we certainly would appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, do you have a cost on the switch?
$75,000.
$75,000, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And again, I'll have Sean reach out to some folks too if we don't have a complete list, or we'll send the list to our communities to make sure that we're capturing the information that you've provided.
Yeah. Any of the supplemental information we get today will also go back out to the communities, actually to everybody who is on the list. And please, if you have additional things, everyone should have my contact information. Please feel free to send it to me.
Okay, next up we have a presentation on the city of Hampton. Mary Lou Hildreth, she is the city clerk, and I've known Mary Lou for a while. How are you doing? Good to see you. Nice to see you too.
Morning, everybody. Okay, Sean, cue the video. Just kidding. I'm Mary Lou Hildreth, and I am the city clerk / administrator, got a new title, for the city of Hampton, population 477. Again, I feel like I just should come up here and just say ditto and sit down, because it's pretty much the same story. You know, our millage rate is 0.32. It brings in less than $2,500 a year. I mean, it's without grant funding. I mean, we've been lucky. Swanee River Water Management District has provided us, several grants to help us with operations and maintenance at our water yard. We're currently in the middle of an FDOT SCOP grant to get all of our roads paved. It gives me job security. We're applying for a CDBG housing rehabilitation grant. But before I say what our needs are, one of the things that I've found, because I am somewhat of a grant writer, is that a lot of the programs that has funding, and my biggest one is the hazard mitigation grant program through FEMA. They award counties like Bradford. For Matthew, they awarded $300,000. For Irma, it was $1 million, but not the county nor any municipality applied for it because it is so technically, the historical data that they want. These are small rural communities with these type of grants. We don't have the resources, the historical data, the technical abilities to do these grants. And like I said, I'm a grant writer, and the book's this thick. It's ridiculous. And so then what happens is that money goes to someplace like West Palm Beach or Miami-Dade that has those resources. And it's really frustrating, to sit there and see that money's available, and it's not competitive. It's allocated to that particular county, but it just 2 hurricanes in a row now we haven't applied for it. Okay, so that's my rant done. Our big thing again we have a potable water yard. It's over 50 years old. With grants we've been able to maintain it, but again, like everybody else, we need new infrastructure, and we'd like to expand the water yard as well, because in Bradford County, with the bypass coming through, Lottie's on the north end and Hampton's on the south end, there's development that's coming up and down 301, but you have to have that infrastructure. I've talked to so many agencies, for SRF funding, you can't build it anticipating growth. Well, if you build it, they will come, and you need to have it for fire suppression. That's for you, Chip, fire suppression. Thank you. So that's a need. And so we'd like to move it. It sits right in the middle of town on a little patch grass in between 2 houses. So we'd like to be able to move it. It would include land acquisition, new wells and service lines for $12 million. The other issue, Hampton is built in a swamp. And so we need a watershed master plan, flood and drainage mitigation. I've worked with Swanee River, Army Corps of Engineers, DEP, FRWA, SERCAP, and others, because we wanted to, first you had to develop a study to determine what the problem is. You can't just go over here and put in a couple culverts because you're going to flood somebody else down here. So the first thing that we need, we would initially start, find out what's causing the flooding and the drainage problems, find a solution, engineer it, and construct it, because we're at the headwaters of Santa Fe. So we would initially start with modeling and a project development, conceptual design. The estimated cost of the study is $500,000. Estimated cost of implementation is $2 million. I mean, we get this, it's no hurricane, just a heavy rain. And we have one particular area that floods severely. We would also like a sidewalk from County Road 18 at the railroad crossing to 301 and a sidewalk on 325. And again, this goes back to this expansion up along 301. We just got a Dollar General put on the corner, and the mode of transportation for a lot of my residents is a John Deere lawnmower from 1972. So they walk, and they walk in the middle of the road, and even though it says posted 30, it doesn't happen. So it's only a mile sidewalk that we need, but it's a public safety issue. Well, it's a mile on that one and one on 325 as well. And as many of you know, there's no funding for sidewalks. And well, there is transportation alternatives through DOT, but the problem is it's like 8 years out, and it's a very limited funding source. So sidewalks for both, approximately 1 mile each, is $600,000. And last but not least, this is my selfish one, City Hall renovation. It probably sounds like it's built like your EOC, but we've already done a lot to it. If y'all are familiar with it, have been there before, when I started there, it had plywood floors and there was holes you could see to the dirt below. My chair only had one arm on it. So, we've painted and we put in drop ceilings and we put in new flooring and new windows and doors, but we have only X amount of money, so we still need a new HVAC system, a new roof, and to remodel the record storage room, and that's $25,000. So, you know, we've got from big to small, but we all pretty much have the same needs, and it's better in Bradford. Thank you. Is that my pen? No, it's yours. Better in Bradford.
All right, well, thank you very much. Okay, so next up, we have a presentation from the Palm Beach County Business Development Board. Sharina Coleman.
Sharina, are you on the phone? Sharina? I don't think we have her.
Okay. I'm just going to give a brief overview on the East Point fires that happened. I know everybody has seen that in the news. We had about 46, it depends on what media you listen to. There is anywhere between 27 to 46 homes that were damaged. We've got a lot of the state agencies, nonprofits, FEMA, they've now got the trailers over there for those folks to reside in until we can get things taken care of. But that is a huge focus of all the state agencies right now, I think. I don't know if y'all have any questions or comments about that whole project, because if not, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about CDBG. I have a couple of communities. I recently went to the town of Greenville for the dedication ceremony of their wastewater treatment system. Greenville's very small, just like many of the communities that are talking here today. One of the things that I found is in order for them to complete this project, it took 8 years to piecemeal it together. Little did I know, back whenever I was with the Office of Tourism, Trade, and Economic Development, I oversaw the Rural Infrastructure Fund. And the grant manager who oversaw this for the project for the community, who was excellent, the day that I went to the presentation, we got to talk, and he goes, you know, this started with a feasibility study under the Rural Infrastructure Fund. Here it is 8 years later, and this project finally was completed, but it was piecemealed together. It was Rural Infrastructure Fund, it was Community Development Block Grant, it was the SRF fund. So anyway, in looking at a lot of those things, we do hear what the communities are going through. Again, we recently went through a rule revision with CDBG where some of the penalty points won't be taking place, but I will tell you, I have to highly encourage everybody to spend your dollars within the time frame that you get it, and here's why. The HUD obviously provides that funding mechanism to us, and I got a report showing what the expenditure rate is of all the states. California's number 50. That's 1 through 50. 50's not good. They're at the bottom rank. And HUD has now frozen their funds. Florida is number 48. So, you know, I know some folks might get a little concerned when I'm calling them, telling them, we're not doing modification to these grants anymore. We've got to get those dollars spent, and here's why. Because if we don't spend those dollars, HUD is going to say, you don't need them. You're not spending them. So it's very important that whenever you're doing any of your projects, communities, it's very important that you hold emergency meetings to get things signed, to get them taken care of. Consultants, extremely important that you're pushing on these communities to get this information to us or to get the projects moving forward. Again, we're only looking out for your best interest. There might be some situations where there's a big staff turnover. Understand that you can rescind your grant, and I'd rather rescind your grant than to say, hey, we're going to have to close it out because you're not spending your dollars, and then you end up getting penalized for it. It's better to rescind a grant and come back and apply when you're really ready. We had one community that they had a housing grant. 3 years into it, they had 2 houses done out of 24. They came to us, and I said, we've given you one extension already, a year, and you're still only at 2 houses. And they had a whole new staff turnover. So I told them, I said, we're not looking at another modification until we see what kind of progress you're going to make. I'm telling you, this community knocked it out of the ballpark. They came back to us and said, hey, we only have 2 more houses to finish, but we need 2 more months. At that point, you have to say, sure, you guys are making progress. You're knocking it out of the park. So, you know, we're willing to work with communities that are really trying, but some of the excuses of we don't, you know, we've had a staff turnover, or, you know, our commissioners don't meet for another 2 months, not acceptable. You accepted these dollars knowing that you had to get these projects done. So I beg you, for your community's sake, get them done. The caps on the community development block grant program, there are things we're going to be looking at that hopefully will help the communities. You know, like I said, I can't imagine as a community having 3 and 4 grants that you have to administer. You don't have the staff. You don't have the time. It's confusing. A lot of dollars go to administration when it needs to be going into the project. So with that being said, we are looking at things. We're trying to make things different. I know we have the Rural Infrastructure Fund, but with many of the grants, the Community Development Block Grant, Economic Development, and the Rural Infrastructure Fund grant, we have those dollars. However, until you have a business on board, you can't use the funds. So, but one area that I made an improvement on the Rural Infrastructure Fund is previously they only allowed communities to get 25% of that pot. Last year we actually got, or for this fiscal year, we actually got $2.7 million, but that's $2.7 million for 32 rural counties. It's not that we divide it up evenly, because we don't. But 25% of that pot goes nowhere. Well, when I first took the project on, I'm going, okay, where does it say that? It wasn't in rule, it wasn't in statute. I talked to our attorneys, I'm going, why are we limiting it? Come to find out, we didn't have to, so I removed that cap. We've now been able to fund projects at $1.6 million or $1.3 million. That makes a difference. That's what brings the jobs. So again, our staff is looking at it. We haven't forgot you. You know, some things, some processes are just a little slower. I will also say, I think everybody's aware of the Florida Job Growth Grant Program, and some of you may have applied last year, and you're probably going to apply again. Just as a pointer, make sure that you really stick to the facts of the project. A lot of people know that the communities don't have a lot of dollars. You don't have to give the history of your community. You can say, we're a designated REO. That's all you need to say. And then you say, here's my project, here's how much money I need, and this is what's going to be my ROI. It makes your process go a little bit smoother. I will tell you, I attended a site selector event over in Marianna one time, and a site selector came up. A site selector is somebody who comes and scouts your area where they want to place a business. And this lady told the whole group, she says, when we ask for information from a community, we tell them we want 1 page or we want 2 paragraphs. She said, all the time people would give me 15 pages. They're excited about your community, and you should be excited about your community, but don't put it all on 1 page, because those presentations, anything that was over a paragraph or 2 paragraphs or a page automatically went in the trash. They were never looked at. I think Jeff Hendry can probably back me up on this one. He's dealt with this. So, you know, whenever you're asking for funds, whether it be a grant, you know, from one of the agencies, whether it be a site selector, just make sure that the message that you're saying is clear, it's concise, it's short. It's going to help you a lot in the long run. And I'm certainly not meaning to get up here and shake my finger at everybody. What I'm trying to do is trying to make sure that the state of Florida continues to get funding those HUD dollars so that we can help improve your communities. So that's my reason for stating that.
Okay, let's see if we have Sharina. Sharina, are you with us? No, okay.
Okay. All right, do I have any questions or comments related to that?
On the timing thing, the big thing I would ask for the CDBG program is environmental review. It takes way too long. I mean, Crescent City's the last 2 or 3 CDBG projects we're waiting on the environmental review. They're not, you know, we're ready to go, but we're waiting now on an environmental review. We've been told we've had this grant for months already. So I don't know if I know that when I went to the required course up in Tallahassee, they got 1 guy doing the environmental review for the whole state. So
I'm cross-training people right
So
now,
that-
actually.
That's my only comment on the timing thing. That would help us get our projects done faster.
Well, if your environmental review is sitting in my office, I would like for you to call me and let me know. Our environmental guy usually does a pretty good job about getting them out. It's sometimes getting them to our office, but I am cross-training my office to make sure that we have additional assistance in those areas. And some of that stuff can be started on early on, so I would encourage that. And then another thing that I'm doing with the new grant agreement is I'm making them a 2.5-year agreement as opposed to a 2-year. I'm hoping that's going to pass with my folks downstairs, but that's my proposal to them, so hopefully, you know, that will help as well.
Why?
Anybody else? Well, again, my name is Sherry Martin. I'm the Bureau Chief, and I oversee the Community Development Block Grant Program, the Rural Infrastructure Fund. I am more than happy to listen to the issues and concerns that y'all have faced with these grants, and we will try to change what we can. There's some federal guidelines I can't do anything about, but I can certainly look at the state guidelines.
We've got some folks from Bradford who'd like to present as well.
Okay. Somebody from Bradford? Okay. And I don't know your name, I'm sorry.
Brad Carter.
Brad Carter?
County Manager.
Make sure you speak right into the mic.
Ours is very, our major need is very general and preliminary at this point, in that our county is going through a transition from a all-volunteer fire system to a hybrid with some paid folks, or at least that's what we're proposing. And we are currently talking with many folks here, including your office, with about some funding with that, and we'll continue to do that. But it is quite an undertaking, and the whole, without some funding and quite a bit of funding, we simply really won't be able to afford the fire service. So it's a very critical need, and a very, in terms of timeliness and the dollars involved. But we'll be, Representative Payne and others have helped us with that, and we'll continue our discussions with you on that. Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any others who are in the audience who weren't on the agenda but would like to present something? Okay, we can go ahead.
I'd actually like for my REDI agency members also to stand up and just tell everybody who you are and what agency you work with. Melanie, you want to go ahead and start? And you can just go sit, just say who you are and what agency you work with.
Good morning, I guess it's good afternoon now, everyone. I'm Melanie Weaver Carr with Florida Department of Transportation in Tallahassee. I see a lot of familiar folks here today, and I've been DOT's REDI coordinator for more years than I can remember. We've got our 7 districts, so this is District 2. Barney Bennett is my person I work with. He probably works with a lot of you folks, so I'm happy to help you from Tallahassee when we have agency updates. I've thought of some things I want to bring up, so glad to be here today, and I have cards and information here too.
Caroline, thank you.
Okay, my name's Caroline Evans. I'm with USDA Rural Development, and we're an official partner with REDI, and we have over 40 different loan and grant programs. So I tried to scribble notes, but I think our agency can almost apply to at least one project of what I've heard today. And I have my matrix up here. I'm out of Gainesville, but we have 7 area offices that we have, 1 in the Virgin Islands and the other 6 in Florida. And we're more than happy to help and talk to you about any projects that you have. I work in community development and rural business, but I'm at state office, so I can go to any program directors with your projects. So, thank you.
And I'm Tom Witt from Department of Juvenile Justice from Circuit 3.
Thank you, Tom.
Hi, good morning. I'm Michelle Barth, and I'm the Regional Director for U.S. Senator Bill Nelson. As you're applying for grants, particularly if they're federal grants and you need a grant letter of support, we can take care of that for you. We also have a really great grants researcher in our Orlando office. I've put some brochures up here about our grant program, and I've got cards if anybody wants to talk about getting on my email list further.
I think that's all well, I know Melanie, the REDI agency folks, I think that's all we have here. We have an additional person, Sheriff's Office with Bradford County.
Good morning. My name is Raymond Shuford, Lieutenant with the Bradford County Sheriff's Office. I'm also the Emergency Management Director and 911 Coordinator for the county. We have a need that we have researched many times, many grants. We've applied for some grants. We have just looked in many different directions and have been unsuccessful in finding a funding source other than coming this direction for our communications center, replacing some consoles, and it's really a communications upgrade. And about a year and a half ago, we took our communications to in a different direction, and we joined the statewide law enforcement radio system, the SLUR system. So it's not really an infrastructure cost to us anymore. However, the current radio consoles that we use in our dispatch center are antiquated. They do not interface well with this system, and so it's very difficult for us to be able to page and fire departments and EMS and have law enforcement communications. We've also identified a need in our fire service that they need additional radios as well. So we've put together a package for a communications upgrade, and that's what we're going to be seeking some assistance for.
Sir, do you have an idea of the cost?
Yes, sir. We're estimating the cost to be around $600,000.
Again, if you haven't signed in, make sure you sign in, or make sure that Sean has your business card so we can get you on the list. I want to ensure that we send this listing out once we get it done to everybody. So like I said, you can vet to say, yes, that is a project I talked about. And that's the cost that we provided. I know we've got some materials. I've been trying to take some notes. So again, we need your business card. We need your contact information. We promise we won't inundate you with a bunch of advertisements.
Although you will get a lot of email from me. The radio.
Yes, next up, we have the RAO organization updates. A few minutes ago, see if Terry Burrows is on the phone yet.
Commissioner Burrows, are you with us?
Okay. And Terry Burrows is with the South Central Designated RAO region. Jeff, you want to come up and give us an update? And Jeff Hendry's, I don't think I have to tell anybody. Y'all know he's with NFEDP.
I see some new faces. Thank y'all for having us, and I also want to recognize Representative Payne. We indirectly get involved in a legislative session. I will tell you that he's a true champion, and our rural legislative delegations all over the state are very challenged with regard to the numbers, but they have a degree of influence that I think is worthy of pointing out, and I thank you very much for that. And I also want to point out many people in terms of Senator Bradley as well, who's such a champion for us. A couple things. One is, thank y'all all in the room. We went through a recertification process for the rural area of opportunity for North Central Florida recently. We recertified for 5 years. That happened in June. I want to thank the DEO staff for helping and walking us through that. It's an arduous process. We have to do it every 5 years, and the value of being part of the rural area of opportunity is that there's a lot of grants, many of which you all have talked about today, that some of the thresholds in terms of the matching dollars, those percentages can either be dramatically reduced or they can be waived altogether in some cases. Certainly helps us out with a lot of federal grants as well. So it's a designation worthy of that. And I think eventually in our lifetime, our job is to not have that designation because it's built around a lot of economic development and quality of life metrics, be it unemployment rates, graduation rates, wage amounts as they compare to the state average and so forth. So it is a success in getting that redesignation, and I thank you all for your letters of support, your resolutions, because it required each and every person in this room. Also want to reemphasize the program that Sherry talked about earlier, the Florida Jobs Growth Grant Program. Just want to give you a really quick synopsis of what happened to our region last cycle. And just remind you all, this is a program that it sounds like a lot of money, $85 million. The 2017 dollars were fully expended. And obviously as of July 1st, there was a new appropriation, $85 million, but it's for the entire state of Florida. Think about that. We got 411 cities. We got technical colleges, we got community colleges, we got 67 counties, we got a lot of other special districts that are eligible to apply for those dollars. So the bottom line is, in our region, I think we were modestly, quite frankly, successful. I'm proud of what happened. Wanted to kind of give you an update on that. 2 programs that got funded that we were directly involved in helping with the grant application, and by we, I mean Diane Scholes and myself. The Florida Gateway College Aviation Training Program is about $860,000 that went to Florida Gateway College, and it's focused on aviation maintenance and repair overhaul training. It's designed to get what they call a Part 147 program at that college, which is immediately adjacent to the Florida Gateway Airport. And so I don't know how much you follow those trends, but aviation jobs, and in particular maintenance, repair, and overhaul, it's much like truck driving. There is such a shortage of those kinds of jobs throughout the nation, and certainly within our state, that was really going to be a boon, I think, for that airport, but also the region. The other program that we were involved in, we were able to get a rail spur funded through the Florida Jobs Growth Grant Program at Columbia County over in Lake City mega site, and so that was about $3 million. So that's a success story. Two other grants that were funded. Baker County got a Florida Jobs Growth Grant funded last cycle for about roughly about $3 million, again for an access road to cross over a rail line, which is not an easy task to overcome. That's into about an 1,800-acre parcel that is located right on the interstate. So it's really got a lot of potential for economic development. And lastly, there was a diesel mechanic program that was funded through this program at Big Bend Technical College, which is over in Taylor County. And those things, when you start talking about, that was roughly about $110,000, I think. All those programs go together to really kind of build our competitiveness. Let me give a shameless plug right now for all of you in the room. The Florida Rural Economic Development Summit is scheduled for October 24th through the 26th. It'll be down in the Kissimmee, Orlando area. And really the focus of that summit's going to be 2 things. One is it's entitled Retooling Florida's Rural Workforce. Let me just share this with y'all in the room. It used to be the infrastructure was a critical part of it, and it's probably, they kind of flip-flop from time to time in terms of having the infrastructure in place for projects. But what people look at now when businesses are looking to relocate, that workforce talent and pool and that pipeline of people that are going to be there to be able to support their workforce. So getting these programs in place at our technical colleges and our community colleges to kind of build that competitiveness are key. It's also going to focus a lot on that middle skills. If y'all do yourself a favor as you're bored over the weekend, I'm sure, Google middle skill, the bridging that gap, because that's the pipeline of jobs and the forecast of jobs over the next 10 to 15 years is going to be that gap. Those are basically folks that have high school, but short, and some post-secondary and some technical training, but short of a 4-year degree. And y'all have heard the argument about 4-year degrees versus post-secondary and technical and trade training. I can assure you in Florida, particularly in our region and the other 2 rural regions, middle skill jobs are going to make or break our success. We're going to have to train, we're going to have to educate our kids in high school and going back to middle school about this isn't just about a nominal job, this is about a career path. These kids get out of a certification training and apprenticeship training, they're making $40,000 and $50,000. In many of our communities, they're making more than their parents after 2 or 3 years. So I just encourage you to attend that. We'll have a panel like we did last year, site selection consultants from all over the country. And so I encourage you to attend to be able to network with those folks. So it'll be a robust program. I did want to point out two grants that we've already developed in cooperation with a couple of our counties, Bradford being one of them and Jefferson County being the other. And let me just say the reason why we're working with them is because they contacted us. The Bradford County Florida Jobs Growth Grant Program application is looking at trying to bring in enhanced broadband and an access road into the Keystone Heights Airport. And let me tell you, we have a lot of municipal airports in our region that are just huge assets that are right now being underutilized. And I'm not talking about commercial ridership, obviously. I'm talking about the ability to attract aviation-based industry and getting them there and manufacturing parts that go in. Drones, okay, is a huge opportunity because of the airspace in a lot of our rural counties is not highly utilized. So I just encourage you to do that. The other one we're doing for Jefferson County, we've already completed and uploaded for them, is related to an extension of their wastewater and water treatment plant 11 miles out to Interstate 10. It's about a $3.5 million project. So we're hopeful for those projects. I'll close with just bringing you up to speed on our USDA partners. I'll tell you, if you're not looking at USDA for some of these projects that you've been talking about earlier, you sure need to look at them. We recently were able to get about a $70,000 grant to re-roof a hangar out at Dixie County's municipal airport. There's a business that's locating out there, and that's a huge boon for them. And then we also were able, through the NFEDP for ourselves, go in and get a USDA grant. We think, I shouldn't say that, it looks extremely promising, let me say that. We hope to hear something in the next week, to really to transform our website into more of a digital and video-based website, which is really, quite frankly, that's the trend now. But it ties into doing an inventory of all the small businesses in our region. And so we're going to be working with our partners in the NFEDP to help you guys help us do an inventory of those small businesses so they can get some additional visibility. Trust me, and I'll close after this. When people are looking to relocate a business, there's a lot of things that they look at. But one of the things is having some visibility for those small businesses. And I don't care if it's an air conditioning company, a construction company, a consulting environmental company. They need to have exposure so that we try to get local jobs and local impact for those people that are coming from outside the region that are relocating their business. And that's what's designed to do that. Last thing is we are going to be embarking on a 2025 kind of revamp of a strategic planning for the region that does two things. One is kind of sets our North Star and our targeted industries based on things that have happened in our region, a 14-county region, and we're also going to be doing a workforce study analysis so that we can look at the types of training that we need to try to start attracting in our community colleges, our technical training colleges, and our four-year universities. So encourage y'all to stay involved. Our next board meeting is September 7th, and it'll be in Suwannee County at the Spirit of the Suwannee. So I hope y'all can join us. Thank you very much.
Also, Jeff made an important comment about the RAO redesignation. Please know that your RAO memorandum of agreement will be coming to you soon. Please sign those and send them back because the designation of being a RAO is contingent upon that agreement being executed. So don't get it and just throw it aside. It has to be executed and returned to DEO, please.
Sending out some of those current reminders.
Okay, do we have Richard Williams or Susan on the phone?
Richard, are you still with us? I hope we didn't lose him on the drop.
Hey, we're doing good on time.
Doing great on time.
Everybody will get to eat. All right.
Agency partners?
Yep. Melanie, you said you wanted to provide an update, so we're going to do the REDI agency partner update right now.
Hello again. I made some notes throughout, so I think I've got some good things to update you all on. Again, I'm Melanie Weaver Carr. I've got cards and information here on the counter to take with you. Our District 2 in Lake City is going to have a workshop in October. I didn't write down the dates, but I can get that back to Sean to send out to everyone when we get close to that time to just talk about all the different programs that DOT has. A lot of them were mentioned today, like the SCOP, Small County Outreach Program. We've got SCRAP, Small County Rural Assistance Program, TRIP, Transportation Regional Incentive Program, SIGP, County Incentive Grant Program, and if they require local match, since you all are in rural counties, you don't, the match is waived, which is great. So that's a good program that DOT has, lots of good grant monies for you all. I heard a couple mentions about sidewalk projects. We do have Safe Routes to School programs, so if some of those communities like Mary Beth you were talking about, if there's a school nearby, we can maybe see if a Safe Routes to School grant could help. Those are out there, and each district has a Safe Routes to School coordinator, as well as the Transportation Alternative Program does have money, and you just need to kind of get in the pipeline for those projects. Some of you might be in MPOs too. Anyone here in an MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization? I think everyone's pretty much just rural and not in an MPO. So if you were in an MPO, you'd have to go through a prioritization process with them, but since you're just strictly rural counties and not parts of an MPO, you can just, work with your district to get on that the priority list. Let me see, what else did I write down here? Oh, and as far as Safe Routes to School program, at UF, we decided to prioritize a lot of the Safe Routes to School money for rural counties, and we wanted to see how we could help, because we realize a lot of the counties don't have the staff to write these grants. So out of UF, Ruth Steiner and her staff there will actually help technical assistance. They'll come out to the rural counties, see what your needs are, help you write the grants, and get you in the pipeline for those projects. So that's a part of working through REDI to realize, like when I heard someone talking about the historical, maybe that's something the Department of State could do, where you can go through a university to kind of help get technical assistance to help write some of these grants.
And also develop a plan. We had one community that actually got one of the universities to help develop a plan. So that was over in Hamilton County, I believe so.
Right. So the universities are a lot of times looking for projects, like especially the planning schools do different kinds of projects. So reach out to UF, obviously is in your backyard. Some of the community colleges might be able to help too. And what else did I have? Oh, we're going to host, it's called Focus on Community. It's best practices in transportation. It's free. It's going to be in Orlando at the Rosen Plaza, December 12th and 13th. And some of the sessions will be focused on rural transportation planning. I work in the Office of Policy Planning, and we are having a big push now to address rural needs, because as we always know, it seems like the urban people get more attention. We've realized that we need to make it, put rural out there more and understand more about rural needs. So my office is in charge of all that work, so I'm proud of that and hope that will kind of be a legacy that I'm leaving DOT, because I'm retiring in February. And this Focus on Community, like I said, get these, and hopefully you can come. It is free. And then finally, I was talking with Michelle from Senator Nelson's office about a lot of us have elderly relatives. We might be, we're all aging, right? We have a Safe Mobility for Life Coalition. So if you have, I'm leaving some brochures up here related to that. People needing transportation in our rural areas. There's a findarideflorida.org. There are a lot of resources out there to help people get around. I know it's a huge issue, just, getting to medical appointments, getting to school, just, getting to the store if you don't have access to transportation, or when you outlive your ability to drive, we'll all get there. Automated vehicles are coming, but they won't be here tomorrow for everybody. So wanted to put that out there too. And I think that's it, unless I have any questions. Yes?
So I'm very familiar with Safe Routes to School. I've written 2 grants when I was in Keystone, and I got one for $600,000. Thanks, Sean. But I didn't get the second one because they're like, oh, well, you already got one. But the one we got, it only did like this much of the spider web, so it didn't make much sense to me that if you want safe routes to school, can you finish the one you started? But we did get some sidewalks. There were some connectivity issues. But the other problem that rural areas have is that some of our schools in our rural areas are being closed because of attendance and whatever. And so one of the school in Hampton is on that potential list to be closed. So why are they going to want to participate if they think they're not going to exist in a couple of years? And so that creates, you know, and if you have to get everybody on board, because it's also a very complicated grant, you have to count how many kids are walking to school, you have to have teachers involved and parents involved. And again, in poor rural communities, it's hard to get that type of involvement a lot of times, to get all the players at the table, so.
That, I can see that. And I don't know if the UF staff might be available to help with some of those needs. And speaking about gaps in the sidewalk network, that's another thing we're really working hard to. We've got better technology now to count bicyclists and pedestrians. So we're trying to move, you know, like get better data for crashes and, you know, deaths and injuries and where there's gaps in the sidewalk, like where people aren't having to drive their John Deere down the road, you know, their sidewalk just ends. So I think Sherry wants, it's time for the next person, but we're getting better data on that, and we have a complete streets program too with DOT now, which is really the roads are for all users. So if you want to kind of redo your downtowns, you know, have more walkability, on-street parking, that kind of thing, you know, DOT is working with our communities to foster that kind of environment. Thanks. Tom, do you have anything you wanted to share? Okay. Caroline, did you have anything you wanted to share? Caroline with USDA.
Hello, I'm Caroline Evans with USDA Rural Development, and I just wanted to point out just a couple of our programs that are having deadlines coming up. October 1st is our deadline for our Rural Energy for America program. And I just want to let everyone know about this program. If you see any rural small business that you think could utilize any energy efficiency improvements, if you see that the refrigerator's having frost on them, or if you see that their lights are the old-fashioned lights, this can make a huge difference for rural small business and can really change their financials when they go and change to energy efficient lighting. We've seen grocery stores that have, you know, improvements in thousands of dollars in their bottom line from just making energy efficient upgrades. That grant is for 25%. So basically for things such as HVAC, lighting, doors, windows, that applicant may have to make those changes anyway. They may as well get their tax dollars back. And so if you see that when you're out and about, like Teresa and I do, we just stop in at random businesses, hardware stores, and just let them know about that, because a lot of times people aren't aware. Currently, I'm working on a slew of rural business development grant applications, which is great. It's just a testimony to everyone participating from their communities. So typically, maybe we get 3 or 4, and we've got 12 this year. So that's wonderful. And the rural business development grants, those can be used for things such as a downtown restroom, where you're putting that restroom in, and because of that, people that come to visit your community will be able to stick around. They'll want to shop a little bit longer. They'll want to be able to stroll the streets because they're able to use those facilities. So that's one of those basic needs that really can improve business downtown. And we did one in Fernandina Beach as an example. And other projects could be something like a farmer's market out in Mariana. We did one of those, and then of course people can go into those rural businesses from that farmer's market. And then also I just wanted to point out a lot of the projects that we talked about could potentially be funded with our community facilities, loans and direct loans and grants. Those types of projects could be things like an emergency shelter, civic center, police and fire equipment such as vehicles, brush trucks for when the hurricanes come through. So public safety services, things with like the 911 dispatch, those are projects that have been funded through this. Medical clinics, libraries, it's a really great program. So we'd love to see applications or inquiries for your projects on this one. And again, my name's Caroline Evans. I know you'll get my information, and I'm Community Economic Development Coordinator also for the state, so I'm happy to walk around to all the different programs and discuss your project. So kind of be an intermediary also. So thank you.
Okay, do we have any of the designated REDI agencies on the phone that would like to share any information?
Do we have anyone on the phone that would like to present?
The REDI organ. Okay.
Sherry?
Yes.
I'm not sure the Small County Coalition is a designated agency, but we're certainly a collaborator, and if you have a moment, I'd like to share a few comments.
Absolutely.
Sure, we got time for some brief comments, yeah.
On behalf of the Small County Coalition, I want to just absolutely say that we appreciate what the agencies are doing and the REDI organization. The small counties, as evidenced by what you've heard today, are very. The agencies are extremely important to these small cities and rural areas, and if you did an analysis of their operating and infrastructure budgets, the state has a very large role, as does the federal government. So without that safety net, it would be very, very difficult with the limited fiscal capacity for them to even operate. The small county commissioners, we've encouraged them, and they have responded extremely well to participating in the various state organizations, League of Cities, and the Florida Association of Counties. And as evidenced, I would just simply like to say that of the committee structure within the Florida Association of County, the major committees for policy development, all of them have chairs or vice chairs that are from rural areas. Public Safety, Ralph Thomas from Wakulla will be the chair. Growth Management and Agriculture, John Meeks from Levy County will be the vice chair. Terry Burrows will handle the Finance and Economic Development Committee. Larry Harvey, as mentioned by Commissioner Goddard, is going to be the chair of the Rural Caucus, and Ron Williams from Columbia. So the small county commissioners have effectively embedded themselves within their organizations, including the Small County Coalition. I do want to say that from an agency perspective, from an organizational perspective, we're all moving into the policy evaluation for the 2019 legislative session. We'll be asking for policy guidance. The Florida Association of Counties will be as well. I know that the agencies will be preparing their budget requests for submittal. If they already haven't started doing that, I'm sure they have. I would request that the REDI agencies around the room look at the programs within your agencies that are particularly beneficial to rural Florida. Our objective, number one, we'd certainly like to be enhanced in those areas, but we certainly want to protect from losing or going backwards. The cities and the presentations today, I would say to the cities and the counties, make sure that what you have put forward today, that you have put those to your agency grant programs, and also follow those up with your legislators and House and Senate members, so that if they are inclined to put in a special project on your behalf, they certainly will not be faced with the question, did the local community submit to the agency and what happened? And oftentimes people don't get funded because there are limited dollars. So you got to play that process on a multiple level approach, and that's what I wanted to encourage you to do. I would, there is a strong safety net. Yeah, absolutely. We need to do a lot more, especially in infrastructure, EOCs, firehouses, wastewater jails. But the legislature is facing a lot of issues. The Amendment 1 coming forward with the additional 25,000 homestead exemption. We've fortunately secured funding for the fiscally constrained counties, but fiscally constrained cities aren't on the docket. So that's an issue. We want to protect SCOP and SCRAP and all those. the BMAP program, springs protection. As we move into that, we've got to make sure that our local areas are protected. I know that Senator Bradley and Representative Payne and others and Senator Perry are all well aware of the impact of springs protection and water quality. We're going to continue to work on that. We had meetings with DEP, the Department of Health and Agriculture. That will be a significant challenge in the future, and I would suggest that any county, and Larry Harvey knows this, he was one of the leaders on this, if you are unclear on the BMAP requirements, DEP, Ag, and Health will come to your community and explain that. So, with that, I just want to say that we're going to face a lot of challenges. We've got to go through the procedural requirements of submitting applications, contacting our agencies, working in collaboration. But I really wanted to compliment the involvement of our commissioners and our city leaders and our county leaders in staying with it. Sometimes folks get frustrated, but keep it up. There are advocates at the state level, and we appreciate Sherry. What you and I might remark that Sherry last year was recognized as a significant state leader for rural programs by the coalition, and Bobby Payne and Perry, Senator Perry, have always, along with the other House and Senate members. But we can't just rely on them to take the message. We've got to do the ground level work, getting the applications in, competing for these dollars. Whether we get them or not, we still have to go through those processes, and I know it's a challenge. So I'll end with that. I appreciate what you guys do, and thank you for letting me share these remarks.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We appreciate you as well. And Representative Payne, you wanted to come up and address the group again?
Thank you, Sherry. Chris, thank you for remembering my name. So I just want to say we heard a lot of commonality today about rural counties, rural economies, rural needs. We've heard discussions on one issue we didn't talk a lot about was rural broadband. There's some initiatives towards rural broadband. I know they're really needed in rural communities. We've seen them all throughout the district. So that is a subject that will continue to play out. My legislative assistant has worked almost all summer so far on working towards developing career tech education opportunities, looking at both technical jobs, where we can extrapolate those into our region, because as we heard today, we know that filling that skills gap is going to be essential as we continue to have influx of people into Florida. Close to 1,000 people today now. Is that close? Is that right? About the same as we had in 2006 when we were one of the fastest growing states in the nation. So there's a lot of issues that we need to continue to address. Certainly being devastated last year by a storm and the previous year by another storm have not helped after 12 or 15 years of drought, seeing flooding in areas where we experienced up to 30 inches of rain in northeast Florida. So those complicate issues, but I want to say today's a good opportunity and a good start to continue to network with each other, to meet your agency representatives, to talk about how we can work with them to help facilitate those needs, and know that they, as well as the legislature and your representatives, are working hard to try to make a difference in our communities. So most of all, thank you for being here today. Today's turnout was incredible. We didn't know what to expect. But great turnout. Sherry, Sean, agency representatives, thank you for being here. Thanks a lot for attending today. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, I'd like to end my little piece with some thank yous. Representative Payne, your office has been wonderful to work with. Thank you so much. Sam and Leota are just wonderful to work with. Thank you so much. Thank you to Putnam County for hosting the meeting. It was a great opportunity, great facility to hold this here. I'd also like to recognize Jeff Hendry and Diane Scholes with NFADP. Thank you for all your work. As Jeff mentioned, that redesignation took a lot of work. It took a lot of work from them, and it took a lot of stewardship on the parts of all the communities. Thank you all for being so responsive and so quick to get those letters of support. Those designations are really, really valuable to all the communities. So thank you all for stepping up and making sure that happened. Also, finally, please make sure I get business cards from you so that we make sure that we don't lose anybody, nothing falls through the crack. After this meeting, I'll be aggregating all the requests so that I can reach out to my agency partners, and we'll follow up with a lot of calls to see how we can combine some things and make some efficiencies happen on helping with these projects. So please make sure I get those cards. Also, if anything else occurs to you, anything else pops up, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are there all the time. We spend all of our time doing technical assistance, so please let us be there for you. Once again, thank you, and I'll...
Joseph real quick.
Oh, absolutely.
Joseph, why don't you stand up?
Yeah.
Quick, just to let people know who your planner is.
This is Joseph Adamense, and he is our planner for the Bureau of Community Planning within our division. This region is his region. Joseph, do you want to come up and introduce yourself here?
A lot of times names and faces don't get to be put together, so I just wanted to make sure that you knew who y'all's planner was, so.
Well, my name is Joseph Adai Mensah from Ghana, West Africa, and I got my degree from FSU, Tallahassee, in urban regional planning, doctorate. Nice meeting. Crescent City manager, Patrick. I've been talking and working with him on the phone. Now I can see him and recognize his nice personality. And I've seen many of you. I appreciate being here. I am the state planner for the Northeast. Putnam County, Clay, St. John's County, Fragrant County, Baker, Duval County, Jacksonville, Nassau County, reviewing comprehensive plans, amendments, and so on. So you may get letters with my email and name in it, so you may know me. We also deal with Water Management District and other regional agencies. What is happening in our department now is we are working what we call intra-agency coordination. Sherry, Martin, and Sean Lewis handle this program. I deal with comprehensive land use planning, but we are moving around so we can interact and integrate many of our programs. So I'm here. This is my first time of being at the REDI meeting, and I enjoy every piece of it, seeing many of the elected officials I hear from and work with on the phone. Mary Lou, I've known her for a little while, so I'm happy to be here, and I have learned a lot from the communities, and I think this is going to continue. And we are going to hope that we don't just concentrate on the urban residents, but rural areas, which is my personal interest. So thank you for coming to Putnam County. I've been here before, but I was here to see the planning staff. I was here also to work with the county for what we call competitive Florida access mapping. So I know Larry and many people, and it's a nice county. And I'm happy to be here again. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, it's kind of nice because, believe it or not, we are starting to talk to other divisions within the organization. And I'm loving it, and I think the other bureaus are as well. Just want to let you know, the next month, REDI is held the third Friday of each month. We hold it from 10 to noon usually. Sean always sends out a phone call, a conference call line, so if you're interested in listening in or participating and you want to be on the list, let Sean know. Understand, REDI is here for the rural communities. For many, many years, it's always the agencies are coming in and we're talking to each other, but it's like we're missing the whole point. We're here for the rural communities. We need to hear what you have to say. So again, August 17th, we're going to be having it at the Department of Juvenile Justice in Tallahassee. And then September 21st, we're going to be holding it in Liberty County. And then October 19th, we're going to be down in probably Okeechobee, the South Central Rail region. And I will tell you, Caroline comes from Gainesville to Tallahassee quite a bit, and Tom comes from Lake City to our meetings in Tallahassee. So, you know, you do have some very devoted and dedicated REDI representatives here. So thank you all so much for being here. If anybody has any more questions or anything, please let me know. Y'all ready for lunch, aren't you? Okay, thank you.